fasten your seatbelt. I am taking you for the ride of your life. I'm going to show you what this car can really do. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Hang on.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hold on to your butts.
Go get him, kid.
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Not a tumor at all.
F? What you're going to ask me. So you can go ahead and ask me what you're going to ask me, and my natural response could be to get offended.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right.
You're listening to the 30-something movie podcast. One movie each week, 30 years in the making. "30-something movie podcast." It's Australia month. G'day, mates. How you doing? I feel like I don't know that it's completely wrong for us to try to do an Australian accent, because I feel like Australians try to do American accents and probably do them pretty well.
Because they do them well doesn't mean we're going to.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed that? Like, we do other accents really terribly, but most other places can pull off an American accent pretty well.
Yeah, it's sort of like a lot of people, a lot of other countries are more bilingual than we are.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that is it like Sweden or Norway that supposedly speaks better English than we do?
Well, I think that depends on how you define better, but yes.
Well, that's...
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't speak it so good.
Well, true.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. Before anybody gets worried, I'm from Texas. I have family that talks that way, so I'm not. Some of my best friends are Southerners, so I feel like it's okay for me to talk that way.
There you go, justifying it again.
I am a Southerner. I was born in the South, and some of my best friends are Southerners, so it's not offensive.
It's all good.
Oklahoma friends, I'm not picking on you. If I get tired enough, that's how my voice sounds. I really used to throw my students off when I get really tired sometimes. If I stayed up late grading papers or something like that one night, and then I come to school the next morning, I'm like, all right, it's time for homeroom. I got to take attendance. Y'all sit down real quick. And the kids are just like, whoa.
Awesome.
Where? What is this? All right, guys, what we're fixing to do today is, wait, what?
We're
fixing something?
You came on the morning news one time and you had your hat and it was some tech tip or something like this. And it was how ISAT testing was going. And you were going full on with speaking how, you were used to speaking in Texas, and it was solid. I mean, it was solid. It was that's pretty awesome.
Oh, it was either that or it was was it the time that, what was it?
Morning news.
Yeah.
When it was in Dennis's room with the green screen draped behind,
Yeah, that's dangerous. There's a lot of stories of things that were filmed that can never be unearthed in the light of day.
Yikes.
That's why we all have to be nice to Dennis.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
But
talk about stuff I might have collected on all of us in terms of audio over the years, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there was one that you were talking and it was just today I'm fixing to show you guys how to do ISAT testing or whatever. And I can't do the accent, but it was And
I did that in the full on cowboy gear. I bet I probably did, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Actually, I think I have a picture of that because I think I was wearing my University of Texas hoodie.
Okay. And or a cowboy cut shirt. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And I think I had my black cowboy hat. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Now what we're going to do is I talk like this, but I don't talk since I moved up here to Chicago. I don't talk like that anymore. That's how y'all say it, isn't it? Chicago. It's what it looks like. All right. Well, this is not a Texas podcast. It's not a Southern podcast. This is the 30-something movie podcast, and we're currently in Australia, which is kind of, sometimes I always think it's kind of far away from the South and Texas and places like that. But then, I don't know. Sometimes I see Australian movies and I kind of see, and I hope this doesn't offend any Australians in any way, shape, or form, but I kind of feel like sometimes the southern United States in some ways and Australia are really not that different from each other.
Yeah.
You know, some of your landscapes, some of your, I mean, you've got like, we talked about Quigley Down Under last week. You've got kind of your cowboy movies, or you've got your kind of cowboy sensibility, you know, and things like you watch Crocodile Dundee, and you could very easily translate that to, you know, some very colorful characters that might show up down in some of the southern United States.
Hmm.
So I don't think it's too far off.
You are not wrong.
Yeah.
There it is.
Well, this time around, we're not talking cowboys. We're not talking Texas either. We're talking Rescuers Down Under. So this is part of our Tribute to Australia month. And then we're talking Rescuers Down Under, Disney movie this time around. Very, very quickly, spoiler alert. We spoil freely here, so be warned. We're just going to talk. And if you haven't seen the movie, you might want to stop and go see it and then come on back. And I did it again. You might want to see it and come on back now. Come on back. Maybe I just do the whole podcast like this.
Come on back, you hear?
Come on back now, him. Black Gold, Texas tea. This is devolving into, I don't even know what it's devolving into, but.
We're going to get emails.
Y'all done use, what's emails? I don't even know what that is.
I didn't get out of the third grade for nothing.
That's right. Rescuers Down Under. But you can also visit our website, 30podcast.com. There you can rate, review the show, leave a voicemail, become a co-executive producer by donating to us on Patreon. Kind of helps keep the lights on. We appreciate any amount of support. We got some great supporters there. And just thank you so much for anybody who is supporting us over there, kind of helping out with the show. And we count you among our co-executive producers of the show. And so just thank you so much for that. Love to interact with you all and kind of get to know you all better. So if you want to be a part of that too, and you get some exclusive stuff as well, depending on the different tiers that you can take a look at over there. You can either suggest a movie for us to do, and we will, we'll take one of those on and record that one for you. Or you can even come on as a co-host for an episode. And regardless, any amount of support, you get a monthly exclusive podcast that only our Patreon members get. And so far, we've got the Brewster's Millions was the first one that came out in October. And then this month for November is the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back. So a couple of really fun episodes that you get as a bonus for joining us over there on Patreon. I am joined tonight with Pat and Bo. Gentlemen, how is it going?
Quite well, John, yourself?
Yeah, how y'all doing? Good. I'm stuck now. It's late. I'm stuck in the Southern accent, and
I'd love to join you, but I can't. I just can't.
Well, I like to throw off every once in a while I'll throw off the kids, and I'll just go into an accent and just keep it like for the rest of the afternoon or the evening. Yeah. And I was joking around with one of the kids the other day, and this is actually a little while ago now. And when we first got our puppy, the vet and all the other people were like, well, now, you need to introduce any situation that you would want your puppy to be acclimated to, you've got to introduce them to that. So introduce them to new people, introduce them to, open up an umbrella so that they can see what it looks like when an umbrella gets opened, and, open up doors and, move chairs around and like all the stuff that you don't want them to bark at. If your kids are going to play basketball in the driveway, have them play basketball in the driveway when the puppy is really young, so it gets used to it. And so we started jokingly like speaking in different accents and saying, you know what? If we ever meet a British person, the puppy is going to need to know what a British person sounds like.
That's awesome.
If you're ever going to meet this, but we need to.
Fair.
So that was my excuse. So then I kind of went full on into a bunch of different accents the other day. And our puppy's name is Toby. And so went into different accents the other day, and Nora was in the other room, and I started calling the dog as Toby, come here, Toby. Yes, that's a good boy. That's a good lad. Good lad, Toby. Such a good
And how
lad.
did Toby take to this?
He stared at me.
Yeah.
Tobias Arthur Reed.
Yeah. Well, actually, you say that. His full name, one of my favorite authors, his name is Tobias Wolff, as in Wolff.
Sure.
And so I said, you know what? Nobody else in the family has to call him this, but in my mind, his full name is Tobias Wolff. So, yeah,
Well played,
you know,
sir.
he goes by Toby, but Tobias Wolf.
Tobias Wolf.
So
That is perfect.
that works. It works for me. So, and as long as I'm amused,
What else matters?
that's all that matters.
Man.
It's really,
That's it.
it's really all that matters. All right. Well, I don't think we have anything else movie news wise or anything like that going on. So we're just going to jump ahead right on into the movie here. This one is Rescuers Down Under. Came out on the 16th of November, 1990, rated G, with a runtime of 1 hour, 17 minutes. Directed by Henry Butoy and Mike Gabriel. Butoy did Fantasia 2000 and Gabriel did Pocahontas. Producer on this one was Thomas Shoemaker. Shoemaker did The Lion King, both the 94 and the 2019 version, and Beauty and the Beast, the 2017 version. Writers for this one, bunch of writers. Jim Cox did the screenplay. Carrie Kirkpatrick did the screenplay. Byron Simpson did the screenplay. Joe Ranft did the story and screenplay, and he also passed away in 2005. And Marjorie Sharp created these characters, and she passed in 1991. Cox also did Oliver and Company and Fern Gully. Kirkpatrick did James and the Giant Peach and Chicken Run. Simpson did the Timon and Pumbaa TV series. Ranft did Toy Story and Cars. And Sharp did the original Rescuers movie in the 70s. Art director on this one was Maurice Hunt, who also did The Black Cauldron and Fantasia 2000. Music was done by Bruce Broughton, who did the TV show Dallas, Harry and the Hendersons, and The Monster Squad. Budget, not sure what the budget was in this one. Couldn't find that one. Box office was $47.4 million. Flick Metrics gives it a 66%, and Cinema Score did not have a score for this one. Starring Bob Newhart, who played Bernard. He was in The Bob Newhart Show and Elf. Eva Gabor, who died in 1995, played Miss Bianca. She was in The Aristocats and Green Acres. John Candy played Wilbur. He was in Home Alone and Uncle Buck. Tristan Rogers played Jake. He was in The Young and the Restless and General Hospital. Adam Ryan played Cody. He was in Child's Play 2 and Unbecoming Age. George C. Scott, who died in 1999, played McLeach. He was in Patton, Firestarter, and A Christmas Carol. Wayne Robson died in 2011, played Frank. He was in Dolores Claiborne. Douglas Seal played Krebs. He was in Ernest Saves Christmas. Frank Welker played Joanna. He was in Transformers and Scooby-Doo. And Billy Barty, who died in 2000, played Bait Mouse. He was in Masters of the Universe and Willow. Cody, played by Adam Ryan, a boy living in the Australian outback, frees a rare golden eagle from a trap. When an evil poacher, George C. Scott, kidnaps Cody to catch the eagle, a group of local animals contacts the Rescue Aid Society in New York City, who assign their top mice. Bernard, played by Bob Newhart, and Bianca, played by Eva Gabor, to the case. To save Cody and the eagle, the agents fly to Australia on a clumsy albatross, played by John Candy, and enlist the help of an adventurous kangaroo rat, played by Tristan Rogers. Here is the trailer, and we will be back in just a moment.
Walt Disney Pictures presents its all-new 29th full-length animated motion picture. Australia. Mysterious. Untamed. And for a young boy named Cody and his magnificent golden eagle, it was a world of adventure and discovery.
Liar!
Until they met the villain McLeach.
That bird's gonna make me rich.
An evil trapper who threatens to separate them forever.
It's time you learned how to fish for crocs.
But though hope is running out, a message is on the way. To the Rescue Aid Society.
There has been a kidnapping in Australia.
And two little heroes, Bernard and Bianca, are flying in.
Hey, let's go for it!
It's the Rescuers in the most dangerous mission ever.
We'll never make it!
Cinch up your seatbelts, mates.
Now, they're joining forces with their new friend Jake and his army of misguided mates.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Ah, Frank, give it a rest.
They're flying into action, riding into danger.
Missed.
In the most breathtaking rescue mission ever.
Hey, who killed the music?
Oops.
Yeehaw!
This holiday season, join Bernard, Bianca, Jake, and
Wilbur!
in an adventure above the ordinary in the land down under. Walt Disney Pictures' The Rescuers Down Under.
Throw another shrimp in a Barbie, sports fans. Here we come!
Really quick question for you guys. Did you ever see the original?
Yes.
I have not. In fact, and I can get into this question later. I felt like in watching this, I felt like I missed, like this was the sequel and I missed the setup, or like maybe there were 2 seasons of a cartoon that this was the movie. You know what I'm saying? Like I felt like I kind of helicoptered in. I mean, I kind of picked it up pretty quickly, but it felt like these were characters that the audience already knew. So I confess, I don't know much about this particular franchise, as they say.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to remember what year. I want to say the original Rescuers. Oh, was it 77? Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought it was 77. So it came out the same year as Star Wars. So, I mean, there was a pretty big gap between that one and this one, 13 years. But yeah, there was the original, and I think very similar story. I've never seen the original one.
The little girl kidnapped.
Okay.
Treasure, crazy, wild-eyed, evil, villainous sort of a deal.
Okay. So yeah, so I mean, very similar story to it. I think that when they decided to do this sequel, I think there were a couple things that I read up on that some of the people that had voiced, because it had been such a long time, some of the people that had voiced characters in the original, they didn't want to replace them with anybody, but they had passed away since the original came out. I think in particular, the bird that was their kind of their airplane was Orville.
Yep.
And so they had replaced the actor who played Orville had passed away in the interim between the first one and this one. And so they decided, instead of just replacing the voice actor, they would just do a brand new character. So that's the point at which when they go to find the bird, they go looking for Orville, but then it has the sign that says, under new management, go see Wilbur. And so, you know, the kind of the reference to the Wright brothers there, and then had John Candy as the voice of Wilbur for that. So yeah, there were a couple of things. As a kid, I remember going to see this one in the theater. I do remember that because I remember that before this one, that was one of the first times going to the theater. I remember there being a feature before the movie, which Disney a lot of times tended to do that. You know, even before a lot of the Pixar movies that have the little short before the movie comes on. This one I remember had The Prince and the Pauper was the Mickey Mouse short that was on before this one. And yeah, I vividly remember being in the theater and watching this movie and watching that that kind of short film before it. But no, I had never seen the original one. I don't think as a kid I knew that there was another one. You know, this one just looked like a lot of fun, so I think our family went to go see it. But yeah, I had never seen the other one. And so as a kid, I don't think I felt that way, but watching it as an adult again, there was a little bit of that sense of, all right, I definitely feel like I'm stepping into the middle of a story here, you know, with them, with Bernard wanting to propose to her right at the very beginning of this. I was like, okay, watching as an adult, it's like, there's very clearly some backstory here that I'm missing, because otherwise it seems kind of sudden.
Yeah.
But hey, mice don't live very long, so, you know, carpe diem.
That's right. So the original that you speak of, it was like a remake. It wasn't like a prequel to this. I
mean, it was.
So that's where you meet the characters and all that kind of thing.
That's where you meet them for the first time, and they team up and they kind of get to know each other. And I think by the time you get to this one, I don't know, Bo, you might be able to talk a little bit more to this. I think they know each other well enough that they've kind of fallen for each other. And so. Oh,
yeah. They've been working together a while. You know, when they pan that seat, you know, they're seated right next to each other. And then they're supposed to be at the meeting. They're at dinner. It's Bernard is quite taken with Miss Bianca.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who wouldn't be? It's Gabor, for crying out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I realized, so I'm gonna show my ignorance here. I realized that for years I had been completely wrong. I always thought that it was Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Zsa.
I thought it was her. I thought she was the one that was in Green Acres, and I had completely, like, in my mind, it was.
Technically, they're both in Green Acres for a hot minute.
Well, yeah.
But yes.
Yeah, I had completely gotten my Gabors mixed up.
I think we'll forgive you for mixing up the Gabor sisters.
Okay.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple of other things I read too was they had actually planned to do maybe a couple of other rescuer movies. They had another one planned for around 1996, I think it was. And I believe, did I just read when I went through all the names, that she passed in 95?
Yeah, Jaja and John Candy died just before they were going to do another one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Eva Gabor died in 95. And so I think they had planned one for somewhere around 1996. And when she passed away, it was the same kind of thing. They're like, no, we don't really want to recast. Can't really recast these characters. Like, we don't want to do that. So we'll just scrap it. So any thoughts of additional movies got thrown aside?
If I remember correctly, the Down Under didn't do all that well, considering.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it was, I would say mildly successful, maybe.
Yeah. And it's funny. I think by other standards, it might have been successful.
Right.
But it came out, this came out in what we'd call the height of Disney's just, they were churning out a movie at minimum every other year, and it was box office bonanza. It was. Well,
this is right around the time
they were churning stuff out, and it was all good.
Well, this is right around the time that Disney was kind of rebuilding themselves when it came to their movies. They did have a bunch of flops kind of right before this, and like Little Mermaid was kind of that one that turned them around. So yeah, This was kind of right on the beginnings of their restructuring, their rebuilding.
And it was all pretty good after this, which was kind of a low point. If it really was.
So you've already kind of said it. In terms of the movie, it's the premise is pretty basic for the movie. You have this boy has kind of he has befriended the animals, and we get a sense that there's some trouble brewing, that the great golden eagle has been caught in a net, and the boy goes to help the eagle, and then in return, the eagle takes the boy for a flight. You get some of the imagery as the eagle's flying around, very much like some of the Miyazaki movies. Kind of that magical fairy tale imagery, and you just kind of get the sense that they've started this kind of relationship between him and the animals, and now there's this special bond between him and the eagle. And as we go further along, we get introduced to McLeach, who's a pretty slimy poacher, and he at some point then discovers, because the boy Cody gets caught in one of his traps, and he happens to have one of the golden eagle feathers on him, which McLeach sees right away, and from that point on, it's kind of his mission in life to catch this eagle. To get the eggs for Joanna, the kind of a monitor lizard, and for him to be able to get the golden eagle as well. And that's that's the premise for the rest of the movie, basically. And he does kidnap the child in order to get that. So that's when the rescuers get called in to try to help save the child. This is one that I always remember this being fun as a kid. And I vaguely remember just something being a little different about this movie, and I don't think it was until I rewatched it again as an adult that you really get a sense that they were really playing with the idea that they now had computer animation that they could use. There's scenes where like the eagle is swooping through these canyons, and the scenery, kind of the background imagery, is just zooming by in a way that it really hadn't before in cartoons up to this point, animation up to this point. And so you really kind of got a sense that this was a brand new type of cartoon, something that we hadn't quite seen before in the way it was put together. And this is probably the very first animated feature that was done, I believe, 100% computer animated.
This was 100% computer animated?
Well,
I think
they did some of the backgrounds.
Yes, but I think the actual characters are still cel-drawn, weren't they?
You know what?
Hold on a sec. I just had that, and then, of course,
I don't think that they were. I think some of the backgrounds might have been hand-drawn, but then they did some of the coloring and some of the other compositing with computer. And I feel like the characters were computer animated as well. Yeah,
maybe that's it. Maybe I have it backwards. That is.
Because that was one of the things, too, was they were they had Little Mermaid, which had been successful, but they had been putting this one together for several years too. And I think one of their thoughts behind it was, look, now we've got computers, and we can use these computers to speed up the animation process. And we don't really know if this is going to do all that well. It's not a musical like some of our other more recent ones have been. So let's just make this one with the computer animation. It'll take a lot less time. It might not be as expensive, and we'll just see how it goes.
This was the first 100% digital feature film ever made. Animation and backgrounds were done traditionally, but all of the coloring, many effects, and the final film printing was done digitally.
Okay.
First film produced with Disney's Academy Award-winning CAPS production system, developed for the film. It cut production time for an animated movie down by at least 6 months. Another comment, the first Disney animated feature to use fully rendered CG backgrounds for the aerial shot of the UN building in the Sydney Opera House. The Sydney Opera House was definitely CG. Like, you could tell the way it was drawn. It's just different. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know anything about that animation piece, but I sure found it beautiful to look at.
It was done very well. And I think when we think computer animation, especially early computer animation, we think more Toy Story style or something of that nature. Whereas this still blended some of the old ways with the new ways. I feel like that's why it looked so different. But it definitely gives it a style that is very pleasing to the eye and very like a good bridge between, the old style and the new.
I want my MTV. Well, I went with the Weird Al. I guess that I could,
Yeah.
That works.
Well, no. I take that back. No, that wasn't the Weird Al. That was
you're right. That was the original. Yeah.
He was singing about, man, that's like out Beverly. That was the Weird Al one.
There you go. Yep.
With computer animation.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, I mean, in looking at this, I didn't see anything in this that was like, oh, okay, that's so jagged. Wow. Like, there's, it really, I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, they had, this is kind of they kind of referred to them as the, I've seen it referred to a few times as the 9 old men, as kind of like the last of the major traditional animators for Disney were kind of leaving around this time. And so you kind of had that shift of, a lot of these guys were either retiring or I think some of them, I believe some of them might've gone with Don Bluth, when he kind of went and did his production company and, so this was kind of that transition time for them. And I think, a couple things that I've read on this one was if you hadn't had, not that Rescuers Down Under was a huge success for them, but I think the quality of the animation, I'd read in a couple places that said, if you didn't have, at that point, Disney was kind of, the animators in particular were kind of down on themselves because they really hadn't had a great hit, other than you had Little Mermaid. But their other stuff just had not been doing as well. And so I believe I've read a couple places that some people argued if this had not done well, even though it didn't do as well financially, the quality of the product that was put out, Disney was very happy with. And obviously production time and production costs, I think, were down because of all that, that you may not have had Beauty and the Beast if you didn't have the success you had with Rescuers Down Under. So it's kind of one of those movies that maybe it wasn't successful as much in its own right, but it paved the way for some of the other stuff that they were able to do later on in these movies that we look at now and we're like, yeah, well, those are like the cornerstone Disney movies when you think about, what Disney was starting in the late 80s, early 90s. When it was just one hit right after the other.
Right. Well, and what was this on Rotten Tomatoes? 60%
That was for Flickmetrics.
Okay.
So that kind of averages a whole bunch of them. Rotten Tomatoes itself, let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Rescuers Down Under on Rotten Tomatoes, it gets a 68% from the audience, 70% from critics.
Okay.
So I mean, not high. Kind of in that moderate range.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking, aren't there a couple of Marvel movies that are out there that are in this range?
Probably, yeah.
You know, and I mean, that's the same thing. People still flock to them when they come out because if you look at it as a whole, even if it's, you know, even if it's lower scores, it's still a Marvel movie and fun and fits in with the overall thing. I mean, it's almost, I could see similarities there. Okay. Maybe it's not the most advanced best story or whatever. I enjoyed it. I'm not judging it, but like obviously some people did because it's not scored as high. But it's, hey, it's the latest Disney movie. We're going to go check out the latest Disney movie, you know? So.
Yeah. This was also one of the first sequels that Disney had come out with, at least theatrically. I think some of their other sequels maybe had been straight to video type deals, but this is the first one that was a theatrical sequel that they had made. A couple of other things that I read. One of them, and I talked a little bit about this when we talked about Quigley Down Under last week, how I wish they had kind of keyed in a little bit more on the Aborigine story and taken that a little bit further. One of the things that I read about Rescuers Down Under, which I was a little disappointed that they didn't go that route, but, and I'm not saying this is a good thing, I understand why they didn't for the time that this movie was made, that originally the character of Cody was supposed to be a young Aborigine boy. Mm-hmm. But the executives at Disney thought that it would not be as commercially successful if there was not a white child as the main character. So that's why they decided not to go that route. Which I think is a shame. I mean, I think that would have been, you know, if your movie is about Australia, that's probably not a bad direction to go, you know. And if they were making it today, I could just about guarantee they would do it that way. But obviously didn't do it back then in 1990. That was the other thing. One of the other things that if there's only a couple things I'm going to nitpick, because this is a fun movie. I mean, we've watched this a couple of times with the kids. I remember really enjoying it when I was a kid. So it's a fun movie. I obviously, you know, I don't want to dog on it, you know, too much, but the only other thing as an adult that I noticed was just like, where are the Australian accents?
Yeah.
Like the kid sounds like he's an American, which I guess the young actor is actually Swedish. But he sounds, so there it goes back to the fact that they speak better English than we do.
Right.
You know, Cody sounds like he's an American. McLeach sounds like he's an American. Pretty much everybody except for Jake was the Australian mouse. Other than him, I don't know that I recall too many other Australian accents.
Mm-mm. No, there were not many.
So, yeah. So it's a Disney cartoon. It's not, you know, I'm not looking at a Disney cartoon to, you know, be the pillar of cultural accuracy, especially at this point.
Looking for hyper realism?
No, not in this instance. But as an adult, that was one of the first things I picked up on. I wasn't even looking for things to nitpick, but that was one of the first things. I was like, this kid's supposed to be from Australia and he's speaking with an American accent. That's a little strange.
Well,
but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know. I go back to my statement that I made, and I know that this kicked off the discussion at Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. But for me, I kind of go back to, this is what happens when you look at movies 30 years on. You know, mm-hmm. there's going to be, you know, I termed it as it could look dated, and maybe the story of itself doesn't look dated, but I'm sorry, the story in the movie doesn't look dated, but just the way the movie, its outlook on things looks dated. And I think that's where you said is the accents, and why was the boy not portrayed as
boy?
the boy, that's right, as Aboriginal, right? And from what you said, Disney pulled the plug because, well, we don't think the movie will be as popular. And now I think the difference is 30 years on, now we ask the question and say, with who? Who do you think it will be less popular with, right? I mean, it was also in our lifetime that there was never really and maybe there was a Wonder Woman movie that I just didn't know about, but like when Wonder Woman hit the screens, I mean, there was some question as to whether, well, can a female lead really carry the movie? And I think that's one of DC's strongest properties right now, is what they've done with Wonder Woman. So I look at that and I think Disney's own tag that they put at the beginning of their movies makes the most sense. I mean, that's just kind of the way it was. And, good, bad, right, wrong, or indifferent. It's, that's the way it was back then.
Marvel has a talking raccoon. Of course, a woman can carry her own movie.
But that was a thing, though. Right?
I know. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
And it wasn't just like, hey, we're doing a Wonder Woman movie because, boy, back in the 80s, we thought women could never, like, this was like a legit, like, it did not come out for a while because no, she should be part of the Justice League movie or part of the Beavis Dodge movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was after, a lot of people said the best part of Beavis Dodge was Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. So
I'd agree with that.
Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent, but no, I get what you're saying. And I mean, I'm not saying that the movie's bad. I'm not saying, but it's like, well, that's how they looked at things back then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe some people still look at things that way now. Right.
Choices that were made, and I'm sure thoughts were different even in 1990, and but no, I would hazard a guess and say if they were to make this movie today, they definitely that's not the route they would have gone. Mm-hmm. They definitely would have stuck with, it's they've much more the mindset now of the, if this movie is set in Australia, then we're gonna make sure it's representative of all Australian cultures. And nobody's going to bat an eye at it because if it's a good movie, it's a good movie. It doesn't really,
right.
Just because the main character may not be the same race as me doesn't mean I'm going to sit there and be like, I can't connect with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I can. Is the main character human? It doesn't even need to be human.
I was going to say, we just talked about a raccoon.
Right.
Let's not forget his being a tree.
Yeah. Does the main character have attributes that I can connect with? Yes. Okay, great. Then I'm going to go see the movie.
There it is.
Yeah. I did want to read this part. I found this on IMDb. So this, we were talking about this a second ago. The entry on IMDb says, this is the least successful film released during the Disney Renaissance from 1989 to 1999, and the only one to not breach $100 million in its opening weekend. After it only grossed $27.9 million in the weekend's box office, Disney executive Jeffrey Katzenberg pulled all television advertisements for the film. Unfortunately for this movie, the film opened on the same weekend as another film featuring John Candy, a little short film called Home Alone, which went on to gross more than 10 times what The Rescuers Down Under grossed.
Thanks.
So... yeah. So, I mean, it definitely not as, as they say, in that 10-year period when it was just, Disney, the powerhouse. You think of all the movies that came out in that decade of 89 to 99.
Crazy.
Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, Little Mermaid, all that stuff. And just like one right after the other, huge movies. And, grouped with those, when you say, well, this one was the least successful, I'm like, okay. Sure.
Think about what we're talking about here.
Right.
Right.
That's like grabbing your, 5 best athletes in the entire world, and then you stick the 6th guy in there and like, well, he's the least successful out of this whole group. Okay. It is because the other 5 are just legends. So yes, of course, he will maybe least successful out of this group.
Right.
But,
right.
Yeah. No, but a fun movie and fun little characters. And I remember as a kid thinking Joanna the Lizard, even though she was kind of a villain, always thought that was kind of a funny character. And always thought that scene where they had replaced the eggs with the rocks was really funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like Joanna's wave at the very end of it when what's his name is going over the thing. Mm-hmm. And I think he's calling to her for help. And she just kind of gives that half-hearted, just open palm, just kind of waving. Bye. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yep. Yeah. When McLeach heads down to the Crocs.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep. Right before that, when they're on the bridge and Short Round goes, "Hey, lady, you better hold on to something."
Yeah. 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 Filmed in the same location.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's amazing how they do that. It's the computer animation. That's how they can do that.
Right. That's exactly it.
Yep. All right. Well, do we want to say, before we jump into our 3 questions, anything else we want to say about Rescuers Down Under?
Good movie. Bring the kids. Beautiful animation. Fun Disney flick.
Fun movie. My kids really enjoyed it. We watched it a couple of years ago, and then we watched it again just a few days ago, and they really enjoyed it. Still, it's got a lot of really funny, really cute parts. I think if you are a movie lover, I think you've got to see this one just for the fact that it's that first 100% computer produced movie, just to kind of see what they were able to do compared with the cartoons, with the animated features before this, and then just to see some of these scenes, knowing that this is the first movie that came out, using that process, just to be able to see how that process was put into place. It just, you look at it and visually it's just outstanding.
Yes. Most assuredly so. And John Candy's John Candy. That's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah.
So that's
getting shot with the syringes and the double-barreled shotgun.
Yeah. Yes.
This is what I'm thankful that this is what taught me what an albatross was, and that it was a very, very large bird. Mm-hmm. Because then that helped me later on in my English classes when there were certain poems and certain books that featured the albatross, and then I understood what they were talking about in Monty Python in those skits when they would just yell the word albatross. Mm-hmm. Not that I needed to know what an albatross was when they would do that, but it's
always better to know.
It at least gave me some background knowledge.
Right?
Yes.
So, all right, it's time for 3 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
All right, 3 questions. Pat, I appreciate your dance moves. I just wanted you to know that.
Hey man, bring it. I'm just trying to step up to you guys. I mean, it's the dance moves. That's got to be the next Patreon thing, is like the dance moves.
30-something dance party.
Oh dear Lord.
Do that.
30-something movie podcast.
Can we do a dramatic reading of the Flashdance script?
I don't see why not. Honestly, I'm actually upset that we haven't done that already.
Okay. I want to do the scene with the water.
You got it,
I don't even know. All right. And I will mention it's getting a little late, and I don't think I was going into like the Southern accent thing, but I think I realized I just said, I think I slurred a little bit. And I think I was, Pat, I really like your dance moves.
Yes. Super
dance moves. Yes. We went back to Sean Connery. That was a continuation from earlier.
And it's Red Ribbon Week at our school. And every morning in advisory, I got to say, okay, guys, today's Red Ribbon Week. And then I'm like, Wascally Wabbit, it's Red Ribbon Week. And I say Wascally Wabbit, and I get the crickets. I'm like, hey, none of y'all heard of Looney Tunes? Bugs Bunny?
They've never heard of it.
I watched that once. I'm like, okay.
Have you guys seen Space Jam? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but some kid pulled out the reference today. I can never remember the name of this one song we're playing, and it's like the Furious River or something. And I'll call it. I'll be like, River Road or Fury River or something, whatever. And I made the reference. I'm like, hey, well, in The Princess Bride, there's the Cliffs of Insanity, and we've got let's have the Song of Madness or the River of Madness or something like that. And all of a sudden in the chat, it just explodes with "As You Wish" is typed out.
Somebody gets you. That's good.
Going back to when we did our recording for The Empire Strikes Back, it was probably last week when we did that. Have you ever seen the internet meme that shows the picture of the grandfather reading the book to Fred Savage?
Yeah. And
then it shows the picture of Darth Vader standing next to Boba Fett. And it has the line and it says, what Vader didn't realize was when Boba Fett said, "As you wish," what he really meant was, "I love you."
That's awesome.
As you wish. All right. 3 questions this time around. Our 3 questions we'll start off with, when did you first notice computer animation? Because I can tell you, I didn't notice it with this one when I was a kid. I will say probably the first time I noticed something that was animated by a computer was probably... it was either the cartoon, and there may have been something before this. There was this cartoon that used to be around. You guys may have seen this one. It was called Reboot.
Mm-mm.
Did you ever watch Reboot?
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it was a completely CGI cartoon. There was that one, and then there was the Pat. I think you've mentioned that you didn't quite get into this one before. There was the Transformers Beast Wars.
Yeah.
I remember that used to be, my brother used to watch that when he was little. And so I remember we used to watch that and kind of got into that a little bit. So on occasion, I would turn it on myself if I was up in the morning before getting ready for school or something like that. Yeah. And those would, I think, be the first time I noticed that something was computer animated, because it really looked different, especially that Reboot show. The whole idea was, it was almost like a kid's version of Tron.
Okay.
But the animation was very much CGI.
It was Canadian, eh?
Oh, it was? Okay.
Take off, eh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that's about, but. Wow, we are basically the International House of Pancakes here tonight.
Right?
I like pancakes.
We've done Southern I realized we hadn't talked food probably in a couple of episodes, so I felt like we were, coming up short on that.
We were due.
Yeah. We've been to the South, we've done Scottish, we've done British, we've done Canadian. Pretty much everything but Australian.
There it is.
Yeah.
Like the movie.
Yeah. Yes. Touche. Oh, and now we've done French. Look at that.
That was a total package right here.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, when was the first time you guys remember noticing computer animation?
You mentioned Beast Wars, and it would a toss-up between that and Toy Story.
Okay.
Toy Story was the first thing that popped into my head, but I'm having trouble placing them in the timeline of which came first, because I know we watched Beast Wars, but in my head it was Toy Story.
For me, it's going to be that video, the spoof video that Weird Al did. Beverly Hills, that is. Yeah, I remember when I was watching UHF and that came on, and I was just like, dude, that's crazy. And that's awesome. And people being like, well, just like his songs, that video was it Dire Straits did the song?
Yep.
That was, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, well, whoever did it, that's awesome. So I think that was the first. Now watch, maybe that's not computer generation or computer animation, but as I recall, that was what that early computer animation looked like. So that's what I think of it.
Okay, so here we go. Reboot was a computer animated TV series that began airing in 1994. Toy Story.
Oh, that was before Toy Story then.
Yeah. Toy Story came out in 95.
They were probably already working on it in 94, but still.
And Transformers Beast Wars came out in 96.
Okay.
So, and you can kind of tell, I mean, it does, from Reboot to Beast Wars, you can kind of tell there was a little bit of a jump forward in the quality of the animation. It was still very different, and you could tell it wasn't the same quality as something like Toy Story.
Right.
But there was definitely a jump from Reboot to Beast Wars.
Right.
I don't know. For me, that was the first time I remember noticing something that I really could tell this was done with a computer.
Right. And I remember hearing the Beast Wars was computer. I remember Beast Wars was computer. Well, I forgot my. Oh, yeah. And not only that I processed that it was different, maybe this is what the question was, but it had like a distinctive different look, like seeing the guys talk and their movement and everything. It wasn't just like I've read about it. Oh, wow. That's the first computer generated cartoon. It was like, you could just kind of tell.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and actually, see, I didn't know this. Reboot was the first ever full-length computer animated television series. So it actually was the first.
Nice.
Okay. Well, that makes sense then. The other one, kind of around that same time, I don't know if you guys, we would, because we went to church and these were always at church, and the VeggieTales videos. Did you guys ever watch any of those?
I did not.
Okay. Those were
I know of them, and I remember hearing about them, but
yeah. And those are all that's very simple, uncomplicated, very early computer animation from the VeggieTales videos. And so that was probably around the same time as Reboot, I would imagine, like early to mid 90s. But yeah, Reboot is the one that I vividly remember being one of the earliest times I could recognize that something was done on a computer.
Right.
All right. Question number 2. What is your favorite cartoon animal in a Disney movie?
Cartoon animal in a Disney movie.
Blue the Bear for me.
Nice.
Cartoon animal?
Mm-hmm. You can go any of the Disney cartoons that feature animals. You can go with any animal you want.
Well, the lions in Lion King are pretty.
That was mine. I purely.
Oh, dude, are you kidding me?
Well, purely because of the voice actors they got for them, and just that movie is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Disney animated movie. I'd have to go with Lion King, and I'd got to go with Mufasa and Scar.
Okay.
Jeremy Irons and
Mufasa.
Say it again.
Mufasa.
Yeah, James Earl Jones, Jeremy Irons.
Yeah.
Darth Vader is a lion, basically.
Right. How can you go wrong?
And a much better dad.
Right.
On the one hand, you give your kid advice. On the other hand, you chop your kid's hand off.
And then work to give him more advice.
On the other hand.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do.
He didn't feel hot or cold about it. He was lukewarm.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's here all week. Your waitresses.
Good grief. Yeah, I probably am here all week. So what do you got, Pat? You were going with the Lions and Lion King?
Yeah, but I stole yours and I feel badly about that.
Oh, that's fine.
I'll throw this. I'll throw...
Lion King is big enough for the both of us.
There it is. I'll throw... growing up, when you got Robin Williams in as the genie, that just kicked Disney movies up to a whole nother level for me. That was just like, dang, this is going to be entertaining on, because how can you not love Robin Williams' style? So I'll say the genie in Aladdin.
Okay.
I'm probably skipping over some really dude, why, how, but.
No, that works.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, question number 3, final question. What is your favorite Australian movie? Either a movie about Australia or directed by an Australian.
Road Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Or Mad Max Fury Road or...
Pick any of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think Road Warrior is my favorite, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll pick that one.
Oh, what about you?
This is a tough one. If you want to go classic, like about Australia or set in Australia, there's Man from Snowy River.
Mm-hmm. That's a great one.
if you're thinking just directed by, the first thing I thought of was Moulin Rouge.
Yep.
Also starring Nicole Kidman.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of where I went.
Okay.
And you, Sarah?
For me, I probably would have to go Moulin Rouge. Just all the way around, absolutely love that movie. Love the soundtrack, love the actors, love the story, love the whole thing, the visuals, all that. So I probably would have to go that one. Although there is just a very special place in my heart for the number of times we watched Crocodile Dundee as a child.
Now that's a knife.
That's not a knife. This is a knife. The other best usage of she's a man. You know, Australian instead of British, but same kind of idea.
Same deal.
Slightly less delicately. You can either punch him in the face or check things out.
Aussie.
All right. Okay. So, and Pat, you said Road Warrior.
I'll just go with Road Warrior.
Yeah.
That's the mood I'm in tonight.
Okay.
I don't know if that necessarily pertains especially. Well, wait a minute. The director was Australian, right?
Yeah. And Mel Gibson.
Yeah, Mel Gibson.
No, you're good. You got it. All right. Well, that's going to do it for Rescuers Down Under. So another movie down in our tribute to Australia month. Next week is going to be our non-Australian movie. We take a look at Men at Work. I'm probably going to play a lot of Men at Work music during that episode, which is totally fine. Yeah. And then we're going to follow that up with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Coming Out of Their Shells tour. We'll be covering that one. I think I think we found the video. Bo, did you say you found the video on YouTube? Okay. All right. So I know I've got the audio somewhere, but we've got the video as well. So we'll be talking about how much of our childhood musical tastes were shaped by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Coming Out of Their Shells tour. God, I hope it was not a lot.
Yeah, no joke.
Yeah.
Early 90s was I'm not going to say musical wasteland, but there's a lot of bad that came out of that time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, there's always good music to be found in any time period, but you start to look at some of the stuff that people were turning out. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and then our November Patreon exclusive episode is The Empire Strikes Back 40th anniversary. So if you have not yet joined us by supporting us on Patreon, please go ahead and do that, and then you'll be able to get access to those special episodes that come out once a month just for members only. And then we give you a nice shout out on the show as well. And there are a couple of different tiers that you can choose from depending on what level you want to support. And there are some benefits that come along with that, whether you get to choose a movie for us to talk about or whether you come on as a co-host for an episode. And for as long as you continue to support us, those then will kind of renew each year. So if you stick around with us, then, once a year you get to pick a movie for us to talk about, or you get to come on the show as a co-host. And so we'll look forward to seeing more people join us through there. And thank you so much to the people that are already supporting us on there. If you want to get ahead and look on into December, that is our Mutants and Rebels month. We're going to be looking at Edward Scissorhands, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, Pump Up the Volume, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So that's what we got looking forward to. And I am going to post up the listing of movies for 1991 here in not too long, just so people can kind of start to get ahead and try to find copies of those if they want to watch those before they come listen to the show. So thank you, Bo. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Great seeing you, Bo.
All right.
See you too, Patrick.
Everybody put another shrimp on the Barbie, and we're going to head out of here. See, we did finally bring food into it.
Yep.
It was very...
It always works with us.
It was very long overdue, but it was desperately, desperately needed.
Yes.
And now I'm hungry again. But that's how we roll.
Right, man.
And then I said rolls.
Rolls.
All right. That means it's time for us to go. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being here with us every week, week in and week out. We enjoy interacting with you all so much. Hope you're enjoying listening. Everyone, be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies, and we'll see you back here next time.